You know that feeling when you're walking up a flight of stairs in the dark and you think there is one more step than there actually is?
Oh, yeah, and your foot just comes down on empty air.
Exactly. It is just a fraction of a second. But in that tiny suspended moment, your stomach completely drops.
It's terrifying, honestly.
Right. Your entire reality is suddenly thrown off balance by this, like, microscopic disruption to your routine.
Well, it's a profoundly jarring sensation because of how the human brain actually operates. We navigate our daily lives using predictive coding.
Right, like an autopilot.
Exactly. Your brain essentially hallucinates a map of what is supposed to happen next based on habit. So when your physical environment suddenly fails to match that mental map, even just a missing step on a staircase, your brain perceives it as a catastrophic failure of reality.
Panic just instantly floods the nervous system.
Yeah, your brain is screaming that something is deeply wrong.
And that missing step feeling relies entirely on your environment betraying you. I mean, there is no environment we trust more blindly than our daily routine.
Which is exactly why it's so dangerous.
Right. And that is exactly the psychological trap waiting for you in the source material we are deconstructing today. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a truly terrifying piece of short fiction titled Shadows of the S8, The Last Train to Berlin.
It is such a brilliant narrative.
It really is. And we're also looking at a concluding meta-analytical note about why this specific story performs incredibly well with European and American demographics. Our mission today is to figure out exactly how this narrative turns a mundane, everyday routine like, commuting home into premium nightmare fuel.
Because it isn't just your standard ghost story, it's really a masterclass in urban isolation.
Yeah, no remote cabins or haunted mansions here.
Exactly. It's grounded. It preys on the universal vulnerability we all feel during a late-night commute, tapping into those deep, unspoken anxieties of the modern world.
So let's get right into the setup and set the trap here. It is December 2024 in Berlin. The temperature has dropped below freezing, and a thick layer of snow covers the streets.
A really bleak, cold environment.
Totally. And at 11:52 p.m., our protagonist, a guy named Lucas, finishes his shift at a restaurant near Alexanderplatz. Now, normally he takes an earlier train, but tonight he's delayed. He misses it.
Ah, there is the missing step.
There it is. That tiny disruption forces him to take the absolute last train on Platform 8, the S8 line.
And this environment does an enormous amount of heavy lifting before the supernatural even shows up.
Oh, for sure. The station is nearly empty. There are just a few passengers waiting around. Nobody is speaking. Nobody is looking at each other.
Classic city transit.
Yeah. Above them, the electronic board is simply flashing, S8 last train. A cold wind sweeps through the station, the fluorescent lights flicker, and for a moment the entire platform goes completely dark.
Which is always unsettling.
Right. And when the lights return, Lucas notices a woman standing at the far end of the platform. But she is barefoot in the freezing snow.
Just standing there.
Just standing there. She's wearing this old-fashioned black coat. She isn't moving. She isn't shivering. She is just staring dead ahead down the tracks. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Why is a delayed late-night train so inherently creepy to us? I mean, is it the physical danger, or is it that sudden loss of control over our environment?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is definitely weighted toward that loss of control. But it weaponizes a very specific sociological state, the concept of being alone in a crowd.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, think about the social contract of public transportation. Sociologists call it civil inattention.
Civil inattention, meaning we just ignore everyone on purpose.
Exactly. We all silently agree to ignore each other to cope with the sheer density of city life. We look at our phones, we stare at the floor, we put our headphones in.
We actively try not to perceive the people sitting inches away from us.
Right. So the true horror here isn't just the dark or the cold. It's the fact that even surrounded by a few silent passengers, Lucas is entirely on his own. The city's indifference is the actual first villain.
Wow, yeah. If the social contract demands we actively ignore everyone around us, it means the contract works perfectly for a predator.
It provides the perfect cover.
Because if something goes wrong, no one is going to step in. No one is even going to notice.
And that isolation is entirely structural. Lucas is standing in the middle of a massive European capital, yet because of civil inattention, he might as well be stranded in the middle of the ocean.
So the barefoot woman is really just the catalyst.
Yes. The environment itself has already systematically stripped Lucas of his community defenses before she even does anything.
Okay, so the environment sets him up, and then it actively brings the threat right to his door. The train finally arrives, brakes screaming against the frozen rails.
Such a visceral sound.
Yeah. Lucas gets on, finds an empty seat, and as the train pulls away, he looks back out the window. The woman is still standing outside on the platform, just watching.
Okay, slightly creepy, but maybe she just missed it.
Right, you can rationalize it.
Hmm?
But then the train enters a dark tunnel. 10 minutes pass. Lucas looks up and notices something impossible. The woman is suddenly inside the moving train.
Without the doors ever opening.
Exactly. She is 3 carriages ahead of him, just standing in the aisle, perfectly motionless.
And how do the other passengers react to a barefoot woman suddenly appearing in a moving carriage?
They don't. They do
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. Nobody looks at her. Nobody reacts. It is as if she doesn't exist.
Which is horrifying.
It is. It's like this extreme, supernatural version of the bystander effect.
Right.
I mean, the misdirection here is dead silence. She moves without a single footstep. But surely someone would notice her.
You would think so.
Is she exclusively haunting Lucas? Or are these people just too absorbed in their own little bubbles to see the supernatural standing right in front of them?
Well, that ambiguity is exactly where the psychological terror takes root. The human brain relies desperately on what we call consensus reality.
Consensus reality, like needing a witness.
Yes, exactly. We constantly, subconsciously look to others to validate our own experiences. Like, if a loud noise happens on a bus, you immediately look at the person across from you to see if they heard it too.
Oh, I do that all the time. Just a quick glance to make sure I'm not crazy.
Right. And if they react, you know the noise was real. When the other passengers completely ignore this woman, it forces Lucas into a crisis of reality testing.
So he tries to verify his reality using the one tool modern humans trust more than anything else, his smartphone.
Of course he does.
He pulls it out and secretly takes a photo of her, but the camera flash goes off.
Oh no, that is the worst possible thing that could happen.
I physically winced reading that part.
Yeah.
The bright flash
Yeah.
illuminates the carriage, and the woman slowly turns her head and looks directly at him. Her eyes are completely white.
No pupils, nothing.
No pupils, no iris, just flat, dead white. He quickly looks down. His heart is just hammering. But when he checks the photo he just took, the woman isn't in it.
She doesn't show up at all.
The aisle in the picture is completely empty.
See, this is a devastating structural pivot in the narrative. We basically outsource our memory and our objective reality to our devices now.
Oh, totally. If
Yeah.
there's no picture, it didn't happen.
Right. A phone camera is supposed to be an indisputable mechanical record of the physical world. When the camera fails to capture the threat, it pushes Lucas into the terrifying realm of the unshared experience.
The unshared experience. Explain the mechanics of that a bit more. Why does that break a person down so quickly?
Well, an unshared experience occurs when you perceive a severe threat, but you cannot get a single living person or any technological device to validate it.
It isolates you completely.
It is essentially solitary confinement, but experienced in a crowded room. If the objective camera says the space is empty and the surrounding passengers are ignoring her, Lucas has to logically deduce that his own mind is fracturing.
Because that's the only rational explanation left.
Exactly. The horror is no longer external, it becomes internal. The thought becomes, my mind is lying to me, and I am trapped in this hallucination completely alone.
And that internal panic makes the slow emptying of the train 1,000 times more stressful.
Why?
The train continues deeper into the sleeping city. Snow is just hitting the windows. Station by station, the oblivious passengers get up and leave.
Just draining away his potential witnesses.
Yeah, until there are just 4 people left on the entire train. Lucas, an elderly man, a sleeping student, and the woman with the white eyes. And then, this leads to a moment that just completely shatters the tension.
Oh, this is the best part.
The elderly man suddenly stands up, walks over to Lucas, leans in uncomfortably close and whispers, "Don't let her know where you live."
Such an incredible line.
And then he just casually steps off the train into the night.
It is a masterful escalation. Because in that single whisper, the theory that Lucas is just hallucinating is instantly destroyed.
He wasn't crazy.
Right? The unshared experience suddenly becomes shared reality. His sanity is validated. But the profound cruelty of this scene is that the validation only lasts for 1 second before the ally completely abandons him.
Yeah, the old man takes the safety of the normal world with him the second those doors close. Because the moment Lucas turns around, the woman is no longer 3 carriages away.
She closes the distance.
She is sitting directly behind him. 0 sound. No footsteps. Just suddenly there. He panics. He stands up and sprints through several carriages, just throwing the connecting doors open, trying to put as much distance between them as possible. He finally collapses into a seat in a completely empty carriage, breathing heavily, trying to convince himself he is safe.
He is clinging to the illusion of sanctuary. He believes that physical distance can protect him from a metaphysical threat.
But the illusion drops immediately. He looks at the dark reflection in the window glass and sees her sitting right behind him, smiling.
Oh, man.
He spins around, but the seats behind him are completely empty. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the narrative makes this wild leap.
The phone buzzes.
Yes, his phone suddenly buzzes in his pocket. It's a text message from an unknown number. He opens it, and it contains his exact home address. And below the address, just 2 words. Almost home.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
But wait, I need to push back on this a little because this is where the mechanics get weird. A ghost from 1987 is sending SMS texts. Doesn't that completely shatter the Gothic illusion?
I can see why you'd think that.
Right. I mean, usually spirits travel chains, they flicker the lights, they don't ask for your data plan. Doesn't this break the traditional rules of hauntings?
This actually raises an important question about how folklore and horror have to evolve alongside society. You are pointing out a breach of traditional genre rules, but that breach is exactly what makes the moment so terrifying.
How so?
This is the ultimate pivot point of the story. The horror evolves from a passive haunting, a spooky figure standing silently in the distance, into an active, highly personalized technological hunt.
It violates the one space we consider truly private now.
Exactly. By invading his digital space, by sending that text message, the entity is proving that the boundaries of physical reality do not apply to her, but they absolutely apply to him.
Wow. Yeah.
Our phones are extensions of our minds. They are our lifelines, our safe spaces, our connection to the safety of the herd. When the entity breaches the phone, it is a deeply unsettling violation of privacy.
I mean, she's inside his most secure perimeter.
It tells Lucas, and you as the reader, that his personal data has been compromised by the dead. There is no physical or digital space where he can hide.
That is genuinely terrifying. The realization that the train isn't safe, but his phone, his only connection to the world, is also compromised. So Lucas makes a desperate choice.
He bails.
Yeah, he forces the doors open and gets off 3 stations early. He decides to walk the rest of the way through the deserted, snowy streets, hoping to lose her. And the sensory details the author uses here are just incredibly tense.
They really build the atmosphere.
The city is dead silent, the snow is falling heavily, and then he hears it. Footsteps behind him. Crunch, 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 perfectly matching his pace.
Auditory stalking. It forces the victim to become hyper-aware of their own physical presence in the environment.
Right, because every step he takes creates the echo of his pursuer. He stops walking, the footsteps stop, he starts running, the pace behind him quickens. He is literally being hunted through his own neighborhood.
Nowhere is safe.
Nowhere. He finally makes it to his apartment building, rushes inside, deadbolts his door, and aggressively closes every single curtain. He retreats to the center of his living room, just sitting in the suffocating silence.
Performing all the modern rituals of safety.
Exactly. But then at 3:14 a.m., 3 slow, heavy knocks hit his door. He creeps over, looks through the peephole, and the hallway's totally empty.
Of course it is.
But he looks down at the ground outside his apartment door, and a wet, barefoot footprint appears in the snow tracked into the hall. Then another, and another. Invisible feet pressing into the slush, walking right up to the wood of his door.
So creepy.
And then the hallway lights violently flicker and die.
It is the complete and utter collapse of his physical sanctuary. He locked the deadbolt, he closed the blinds, he isolated himself in his fortress, but the threat still arrived right at his threshold.
But the story doesn't end with a predictable jump scare in the dark apartment. It gives us this clinical epilogue that fundamentally changes the context of the entire narrative.
The morning after.
Yeah. The next morning, the police arrive to review the apartment building's CCTV footage. The camera shows Lucas entering the building alone, panicking, at 3:14 a.m. But then, the objective footage reveals something else.
The ultimate witness.
The woman in the black coat followed him inside. She is crystal clear on the tape, barefoot, smiling right at the lens, just a few steps behind him.
And they find out who she is, right?
Yes. The police records reveal that this specific woman died on that exact train line back in 1987. So what does this all mean? The modern smartphone camera completely failed him on the train, but this gritty, low-resolution CCTV security camera captures her perfectly.
It permanently strips away the comforting defense that he was just losing his mind.
Exactly. The camera acts as the ultimate indisputable witness.
It forces the supernatural into the objective record, and this brings us directly into the meta-analytical note included with the source material.
Right, the demographic data.
Yeah, the analysis examines why this specific story performs so incredibly well with European and American horror audiences. What's fascinating here is the mechanics of its success. It works so profoundly because it weaponizes our daily infrastructure.
It takes our own unavoidable reality and turns it into the trap.
Think about traditional horror. It usually relies on remote cabins deep in the woods, or ancient Gothic castles, or abandoned asylums.
Places I'm never going to visit.
Exactly. You can easily distance yourself from that threat by simply saying, well, I would never go to a spooky cabin in the woods at midnight.
Problem solved.
Right. But this story strips you of that defense mechanism. It uses a major city, it uses winter, it uses public transit, empty stations, smartphones, and security cameras.
The mundane, entirely unavoidable elements of Western urban life.
It is hyper-realistic urban horror. You literally cannot avoid taking the train home after a late shift. You cannot avoid walking down a dark, snowy street to get to your apartment.
And you definitely cannot avoid passing by dozens of security cameras every single day. The author forces the horror into spaces you are mandated to occupy.
By validating the ghost's existence through the police records and the CCTV footage, the narrative delivers a chilling final message to the audience. This wasn't a stress-induced hallucination.
It was real.
This is a persistent, lethal anomaly embedded in the concrete infrastructure of the city itself. The tragedy of 1987 is still writing the S8 line tonight, and the horrifying truth is that it could follow absolutely anyone home if they happen to miss their regular train.
Well, we have tracked Lucas's journey today from something so small, so relatable, just missing a regular train and taking the last one all the way to an inescapable hunting.
It really escalates perfectly.
It started with the subtle isolation of the commute where the social contract demands we ignore each other. It moved to the terrifying realization that his brain's reality testing was failing him.
And then his digital space was invaded.
Yeah. Right. His digital sanctuary was breached with a text message that proved distance meant absolutely nothing. And it ended with the indisputable, terrifying proof of the CCTV camera.
It is a relentless, systematic stripping away of every modern safety net we rely on. First, the crowd of people is useless. Then, his own personal technology is useless.
Then his speed is useless as she tracks him in the snow.
And finally, the locked door of his home is utterly useless.
I want you, listening to this, to really think about your own commute home tonight. Think about the empty transit stations you might pass through, the flickering fluorescent lights overhead, and the tired strangers you actively choose to ignore just to uphold that unwritten social contract of city life.
You might want to pay a little more attention next time your routine is disrupted.
Especially if you find yourself waiting for the absolute last train.
The mundane world we navigate every day is only mundane until you start noticing the anomalies. And once you see the missing step, you can never unsee it.
So true. And I want to leave you with one final, deeply unsettling thought to mull over before your next commute. We saw the stark contrast between Lucas's modern smartphone and the building's ancient security system.
Yeah, the tech divide.
Right. If Lucas's personal phone camera completely failed to capture the woman on the train, but the building's gritty, objective CCTV perfectly captured her smiling right behind him in the hallway. What is it about mass surveillance systems that allows them to see the dead?
That's a terrifying question.
Are we constantly being followed by the echoes of 1987, entirely invisible to our own biological eyes, but perfectly visible to the thousands of security cameras we walk past every single day?